Hey, good morning, guys. How are you? Good to see everyone. Or good afternoon if you're over here on the East Coast. How the heck is everybody? I hope you're doing well today on this wonderful Tuesday, this 5th of October. 5 days into October already. Can you believe it? It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Sorry for the late start. YouTube was giving me problems. Hey, Ricky. Hey, Adam. Welcome, one and all. Oh, it's okay, Ricky. The video will be there forever, and if you ever have any questions or comments or anything, you can just put them down in the bleep bloop, and I'll try to answer them. But onward and forward. Yesterday we talked about S3 Expedition of the Barrier Peaks in all its wonderful sci-fi, science fantasy goodness. A thoroughly enjoyable module, one that I love and I know is, in my opinion, an underrated classic. It can do so many great things for AD&D if you want your AD&D game to become something more. Then, you can just get out your knife and fork and just dive right in. Hello, Simile. Good to see you. Always good to see folks. Hello, viewer over on Facebook, whoever you might be. It's just good to see you all. So, anyway. Hey, Tracy Lesh. It's my buddy over there. We'll get Tracy on the show soon. We're going to do like an evening stream when Tracy can come on, when he's feeling up to it. And we'll have a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know, if you're new to the channel and you don't know, Tracy Lesh is one of the founders of Dungeons and Dragons. If you're lucky enough to own a set of original D&D books, Tracy's art graces many of those. And he was instrumental in the creation of Boot Hill from an artistic standpoint. And he's gone on to do so many wonderful pieces of art. Last night, so I'm lucky enough to have Tracy. He's local to me. Of all the people with of all the foundational original TSR band members, for lack of a better term, Tracy's the only one who's actually physically close to me. Now, Rob Kuntz moved down here for like 2 months back in 2018, I think. He moved here in September, and Tracy and I can both tell you, as can anyone else who lives in Florida or has been here in September, it gets a little warm. Now, this year wasn't too bad, but yeah, August, September in Florida, it's a little toasty. It's not so much toasty, because if it was in the mid-90s in, say, Arizona, you'd be like, oh man, it is warm today. But see, we get that 92% relative humidity, which effectively makes it 110. So after just a few months, Rob scuttled right back up to Wisconsin. But no, Tracy and I, we survive and thrive down here. We're like alligators surviving in this heat. And I was fortunate enough to get to know Tracy. And last night, he and his lovely wife, they play in my weekly AD&D game. that I'm going to tell you guys about. Calm down. We'll get there. Anyway. Yeah, Tracy's just sitting there, just doodling, and like knocks out a picture of a dwarf that's, like better than I have seen most so-called pro RPG artists these days do. It's just like, just doodling and inking. It was amazing. Ricky says, I'm in Maryland. Tell me about it. Yeah, that whole kind of semicircular region there around DC, that's all pretty much a swamp. Pete, we have a kind of a jaded look at things in the United States, like, oh no, Maryland, that's up north. They get snow there sometimes. And I realize climate doesn't go just in a straight line exactly around the globe, but we tend to think of up north, places like New York, New Hampshire, things like that. Look at a globe. England's up here. Our northernmost states are up here. Okay? This, for all intents and purposes, pretty much every place south of northern Maine in the winter is basically a moderate tropical paradise that we live in here. Damien says, maybe in and out of the stream, Comcast in South Florida has been on the fritz since Saturday with county-wide outages. Damien, I'm sorry to hear that. I completely understand. Believe me. I have to deal with... Comcast bought Spectrum, who bought Time Warner, who bought Roadrunner, who bought who was it before Roadrunner? Was it Cablevision of Central Florida? I can't remember. But yeah, we've had like a dozen cable companies. There was a time, for you younger kids, I'll let you in. There was a time when there were competing cable companies, like in this area. Like you could get Storer Cable or you could get Time Warner. Some like housing subdivisions had their own cable provider. Like they bought a package from somebody and then split out to their residents a la carte packages. It was crazy. So that's okay, Damien. I know you love me. But anyway, I'm surmising Tracy is at work right now and just stepped in to say hi. Tracy's a tech support guy, work from home. Gosh, I should probably stop doxing Tracy in live chat, shouldn't I? Anyway, so if you're coming in over from one of the Discords that I have joined recently, welcome. If you've subscribed, welcome. Thank you so much. But it's good to see you all. I'd actually heard about Adelphia years ago, Damien. Funny little story. This is the last bit I'm going to talk about cable. Back in the 90s, cable broadband was it was a dream. There were so many competing technologies. And when I say 90s, I'm talking like early 90s, like 93, 94. At least here in Florida, broadband cable was a dream. I heard of some people that had like 2 megabit ADSL lines, some people with dedicated ISDN, which was only 128K, but because it was dedicated, it could be faster than DSL. And when the major cable service tested like 1,000 homes in and around the Central Florida area, tested broadband, they came in and they provisioned them, and the cable modems that they gave their test groups were Silicon Graphics indie workstations. They didn't get a monitor and a mouse and a keyboard. They didn't manage them. The cable came into the workstation, and then a network cable went to the computers of the users. And when they were done, they told, the user, okay, well, we're shutting the service off. And the majority of the people just never returned their cable modems. And so they had multi-$1,000 SGI workstations just lying around their house. But of course, because this was a time of early VGA, people didn't have 13 3W sync-on green monitors. Most of them didn't get used. Can you imagine just your cable company just rolls up? Here's a desktop supercomputer. You can give it back when we're done or not. Man, those were the days. So let's move on. Let's stop talking about cable and internet and Silicon Graphics workstations and all that. Tomorrow, speaking of off-topic subjects, tomorrow marks the return of Kyle Schuant, co-host, Australian RPG designing madman. Kyle Schuant will be in the house laying the smackdown on all you story gamers and diceless RPG weirdos and second edition on gamers. Yes, the return of Kyle Schuant is tomorrow, and I couldn't be happier about that. I love it when Kyle's able to co-host with me. So tomorrow's show, 7 o'clock Eastern. Which is 9 o'clock on Thursday morning for Kyle, by the way, in case you're wondering. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be good fun. Oh my gosh, let's see. So what do we got going on today? I talked about Kyle. Yesterday, Expedition of the Barrier Peaks. So catching you guys up on the game, there's not a lot to say about last night's game. I mean, it was good role play. We had a couple of people out, but not a huge amount of absences. Dan had to dip out. And by the way, to Dan McDougall, even though I've got two 27-inch monitors, I still get windows on top of windows and things disorganized. I missed your exit from the game. Mea culpa. I hope you had a good evening and are having a great day. Dan had to dip out early. But basically what it was is, this is a perfect example of an adventure never surviving. I'll read that out loud in a second, passerby. An adventure never surviving contact with the players. And I'll tell you, I planned out. Now remember when we talked about encounter, like land travel encounters? There was a point at which the party left Divers. They had a couple of encounters, random encounters. Whites ate a bunch of their men-at-arms. They encountered some berserkers and kicked them around. And so I said, well, you've got these different paths you can take. You can go up to this city, you can go here, you can go there, And so they said, well, wait a minute. Why do we have to... Bill seems really to want us to go there. Why do we have to do that? And the truth is, I didn't care if the party went that way. I had just happened to roll encounters for a certain path that I thought they would take, like as the crow flies, direct line to get to the area where they'll start searching for the lost caverns of Sojkoth. So it confounded me when they said, well, no, we're not going through this forest. We're going this way. And I'm not a railroading DM. I'm not going to insist, oh, no. You're going this way. So they went completely the other way. And it scuppered a couple of encounters that I had rolled up. And I was quite proud of one of them. Because if you remember, random encounters on the tabletop can include, in wilderness, can include encountering a occupied castle that the characters can meet the owners of, have interactions with. It's a slim chance. So you roll the possibility of an encounter. If the encounter happens, roll a d20, and on a 1, it's some kind of settlement. And then you roll for type of settlement. And it can be a castle. So, as it happened, it was a castle. And so I was thrilled. I was like, oh, well, this is going to be interesting. I've got all these ideas in mind for potential encounters and interactions and so on and etc. And they just went completely a different way. Now, did I move it? No, I didn't. It's still there. If the party ever goes to the hex that it's in, they'll encounter it then. Otherwise, it'll just be something I keep in my vest pocket. But they, let me see. Let me look at my Greyhawk map here so I can give you guys kind of an idea if you've been following this along. And I put up these posts in various places. They're all the same post about the adventures. Oh, let's see. Is it Jeff? Crystal Mist, Lord Mills. I'm not really sure how they organize these map sections, so it'll probably take me a minute to find it. There we go. Okay. So if you look here, they left Littleburg, and I thought they would travel to Chendal and then cut across the Vesive to get to the mountains. But they said, no, we're going to go to Highfolk instead. We're not going through the forest, Bill. We're going over to Highfolk. That's right up against the mountains. So they went to the Free State of Highfolk. And I diced for extra encounters along the way. And they didn't have any. They went all the way to Highfolk, which is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. A 12-day ride. And I am using the Weather in the World of Greyhawk system. But there is an excellent let me just see this here. There's an excellent tool that you can use. And I think I've shared this before, but if I haven't, I'm sharing it now. There it goes in Facebook. And for you folks in YouTube. It is a weather forecaster for Greyhawk. You put in terrain, longitude, and latitude, and there's a convenient map you can expand out on the page to figure out approximately where the party is. You select the month, and it'll output all kinds of variables. Temperature in Celsius, temperature in correct measurement, wind, rain, all that sort of thing is pre-generated. So I've been using that, and as this is patch wall, the month of Patchwall in Greyhawk, fall has fallen, and the nights are cold, the days are mild. And I don't want to leave passerby hanging. He says, Kyle should be laying the smackdown on the popo in Australia that harass people, not me, 5e player. You'll have to come by tomorrow, passerby, and take that up with Kyle. So the party went all the way to High Folk and had no encounters. And they bought up a few magic items because, look, I figure an elven city of 10 to 60,000 occupants is going to have at least one establishment that sells magic items. It's gonna. I'm not a fan of ye old magic shop for a few different reasons. One, I don't think the powers that be are really going to sit on their laurels and let magic armor and magic swords and magic weapons just kind of sit around out there. They're going to send buyers. They're going to purchase them. They may lean on the owners of these shops and say, look, your duty to the kingdom is to pony those up. This year's taxes, that +2 intelligent sword that can find gems and jewelry and what kind is what you're going to be paying. So I tend to shy away from magic shops. Plus, I really want the players to appreciate when they find magic items. I don't want them to just get used to, oh, well, we need X, we'll go buy X. Hey, IR, good to see you. But High Folk is going to have a magic shop in it. Or two. In this case, it was two. And they purchased some items. They decided that climbing through mountains and valleys thousands of feet high was probably not something they wanted to do with a retinue of nearly 30 men on horse. So for the duration of their expedition into the Lort Mills, they are going to leave the men-at-arms behind. They're basically going to say, hey, you're going to bivouac here, behave yourselves, we're paying you in advance. And they spent the rest of the session buying mundane gear, which was very impressive, in my opinion. They thought about iron spikes, lengths of rope, torches, wood to use for firewood, because let me tell you what, in the winter in the mountains, it's going to get cold. That Greyhawk weather forecaster. I mean, I'm just going to pull this up here just to kind of give you guys an idea. So we're talking about Patchwall, which is autumn. And this is mountains. And we'll just leave the default 3,000 feet. And this is in the 35th latitude. So let me just give you guys an idea of what in the world of Greyhawk the weather is going to be like when they go there. So bringing this up, this is towards the end of the month. We'll just take, starting with Star Day, which is basically the beginning of the week. So the average temperature on the day is 35 degrees. The high is 22. The low is 9. Sunday, moderate, with a high of 36 and a low of 25. And the winds on these days, I'll get to those in a second. Moon Day, high of 31, low of 15. These are all in correct measurements, not Celsius. So, because there's two kinds of nations on the earth: those who use imperial measurements and have put men on a moon, and those who use metric and have not put men on the moon. Just pointing that out. I just gotta tease the European folks. I love you all regardless. So God's Day, high of 37, low of 25. Water Day, high of 34, low of 22. Earth Day, high of 39. Oh, it's toasty. Get your shorts and t-shirts on. High of 39, low of 26. And then Free Day, high of 33, low of 20. The winds are strong, like strong to severe. That's showing me meters per second. Why are you doing that? Let's see. I'll redo that. Yeah, so there's 30 and 40 mile an hour winds. So it is going to be cold and wet and windy up in those mountains for the party. And the majority of the adventure, even though there was no dragon slaying, no ogre fighting, no monster attacks and so on, etc., they spent that time preparing. They bought food, drink, mundane supplies, and the magic items they were able to find. They found a couple of potions of extra healing and a rope of climbing, which I thought both were very wise of them. Already out of water. Sorry for the slurpy sounds, guys. So that was basically how the session went. The party preparing for that kind of an adventure. They can't take their carts. They can go on horses, but these are mountain trails, so they're not going to be taking carts or anything like that. They've got to haul firewood and coal up with them to keep warm. So that was last night's game in a nutshell. And since we've got the world of Greyhawk on our minds, let's just jump right back into it. Let's talk a little bit more about Greyhawk Deities. Unless you guys have any questions, in which case you'll put them in the chat. I know you will, and I'll see them. But I did talk a little bit, and this has kind of tempered my mindset. I talked about devils and demons getting everything that they already get, and then the salad bar of what gods get, good and evil, in the World of Greyhawk set. And I thought about it, and in retrospect, based on someone's comments, I don't know now that I would do that. Maybe for a couple of the truly, truly major ones, I might. Certainly never for common demons like succubi or balrogs or pit fiends or anything like that. I would never give them the characteristics of demigods and so on. I was just referring to like Dispater, Joyblex, you know who, Asmodeus, all those beings getting the additional powers. But it might be pushing it a little much. Odds are it's not going to matter. It's kind of like coming into a tournament game and saying, for original D&D or AD&D, and saying, yeah, I want to play an elf, but I don't care for those demi-human level limits. Like, is it really going to matter? I mean, so saying me saying that I think Asmodeus should have all the powers given to gods in the World of Greyhawk set, in addition to what he already gets. Have them, don't have them. Is it ever going to be an issue for a party? I'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'll cross that bridge when we get there. But speaking of evil beings in the world of Greyhawk, that brings us to another god we can look at and focus on today. Encabulos. He is a major god. Neutral evil, or as I call it, the evilest evil. Evil, plague, sickness, famine, drought, disasters, nightmares. Encabulos is the deity of evil sendings, plague, sickness, drought, nightmares, and the like. His chief delight are woe and wickedness. Thus he is feared even by the princes of Hades and dukes of hell. Encabulos is so horrible looking as to make anyone shudder, with his nightmare's visage, deformed body, and skeletal hands. Clad in robes of dead black lined with a cloth of sickly orange hue and nauseating moss green, he roams the astral, ethereal, and prime material planes, the latter during darkness only. Often he rides a huge nightmare accompanied by 6 of the strongest night hags, likewise mounted. Now, it sounds to me like Encabulos may be one of the one of the great plagues. It was death, famine, war, disease. One of the horsemen of the apocalypse. That's what I'm saying. He could be one of the horsemen of the apocalypse. In addition to his many other abilities and powers, Encabulos can cast a sleep spell which is permanent and can be removed only by exorcism. His normal weapon is a staff which causes great wounds, affecting any creature, plant, or animal struck. Encabulos is also believed to employ a venomous bastard sword at times. In time of need, Encabulos will summon aid by gating in night hags or hordlings. They arrive individually and serve Encabulos willingly. Those who worship and serve Encabulos are most secretive, fearing the wrath of those, even other evil ilk, who detest what Encabulos stands for. Yet many do call upon this deity, and hidden temples exist in subterranean places and forsaken lands. His priesthood dresses in black, of course, with an eye of possession symbol in verdigris bronze, repeated in dull orange on the robes of higher clerics. Services to honor Encabulos have weird humming and droning chants as background. Multiple evils are celebrated by the faithful, while the flickering black candles dimly light altar areas. All vessels are of old bronze, carnelian, or bloodstone. Sounds to me like Encabulos could have been the god worshipped by the evil cleric in The Keep on the Borderlands, no? Just given some of the descriptions. But then Gary mentions the evil eye. Well, what is the symbol that Lareth the Beautiful wears in the village of Hamlet? He wears an evil eye. But then Lareth is most favored of Loth. But Lareth is human and Loth is dark elven. What even is going on here? That's up for you, the dungeon master, to decide. And I just want to touch on something and stick a pin in this because I'm still just so happy that it was here on this live stream when Alan Hammock explained, no, Loth's inclusion in T1 is not a typo and it's not an error to be corrected. So, let's see if we've got some stats for Encabulos, shall we? Anything for Encabulos? I don't think so. Most of the major gods, no, but we could be wrong. There we go, Encabulos. Armor class, -9. Sharpen your swords, kids. Move 15 or 45 inches. Hit points 383. Incabulos is one bad cookie. Special attacks and defensives, see below. Damage per attack by weapon type, +2, strength bonus. Magic resistance, 95. Don't hold your breath on disintegrating him. Size medium. Alignment neutral evil. Worshipper's alignment evil. So that could go across the spectrum. Lawful, neutral, or chaotic. Symbol, Eye of Possession. Plane, Hades. 18th level Cleric, 18th level Illusionist, 13th level Thief. All attack defense modes and psionics. Strength 18, Intelligence 20, Wisdom 20, Dexterity 25, Constitution 21, Charisma -3, 24 on Hades. Now, does that mean that it's -3, but when he goes to Hades, he becomes this brilliantly handsome and attractive fellow? Or just two beings on Hades? Incabulous permanent sleep spell requires but a single segment and can be removed only by exorcism. He has a double strength sleep spell requiring 2 segments to cast. Either spell is usable by him once per day. His normal weapon is a staff of wounding, the reverse of curing, and withering, both of those functions affecting even demons, devils, vegetation, etc. The device has no fewer than 60 charges. Now there's an interesting point. If it has 65 charges and he uses it 5 times in combat, the 6 times he uses it, does it just automatically regenerate? Is that what he's saying? Or just at any given time, it will have at least 60 charges. Incabulous can gate in 4 night hags or 8 hordlings, but not both. These arrive at the rate of 1 per round, beginning the round the gate is open. The summoning of aid can be done once per day for either sort, night hags or hordlings. Incabulous can be hit only by +4 or better weapons. He regenerates 2 hit points per round. Faithful clerics of 5th level and higher have the ability to cast hypnotism as if they were 3rd level illusionists. At 8th level, they can cast a sleep light spell by touching the single intended victim. Incabulous, ladies and gentlemen, probably darn close to a Satan in the world of Greyhawk. Darn close. Hey, Randy Buckness, I see you over there. Good to see you, my friend. Randy joining us over on Facebook. Hope you're well. I like it that Randy always just stops in and says hello. Really, it's very nice of you, Randy. It's one of the reasons that I still keep live streaming to Facebook, even yesterday. So if you're a regular user on Facebook, or if you're a regular listener on Facebook, you'll just have to stop by the YouTube channel to watch yesterday's show on Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, because as we know, someone at Facebook, they went through the flowchart of how to use a computer and got all the rolls that took them to item destroyed. We had a discussion in my Discord about exactly what happened yesterday, because we got some pretty strong IT brains over there. Oh, you didn't know we had a Discord? Well, let me help you out with that. You can come join us over on Discord. And just pop in and say hi. But, yeah, we were discussing what exactly happened at Facebook yesterday, but it did not permit me to live stream to Facebook as I live stream to YouTube. And if it wasn't for a handful of people whom I care about deeply who are regular Facebook users, I would drop Facebook as a platform entirely. When I share my YouTube videos, they automatically limit the engagement and the number of people who can see it. Like, you have to go to my Facebook page to see just a flat out YouTube thing. And Facebook, from the bottom of my heart, you will never serve up content on the scale that YouTube can, even though YouTube loses Google billions of dollars. It's going to be around for a long, long time. And that's not me saying nice things about YouTube, that I think YouTube is a wonderful service. I have my problems with it. But I digress. Let's move on. So Encabulus is one bad cookie, for sure. But let's take a look at another deity, Istis, Our Lady of Fate. She's a major goddess. She is neutral. Istis, the colorless and all-colored, Lady of our Fate, is honored and feared as the controller of foreordination. While she has relatively few faithful devotees, many persons will call upon Istis in time of want or need. She may or may not heed. None knows. Because fate is so often cruel or unkind, only very cynical or unfeeling persons tend towards service of Istis. No one knows where or when Istis makes her abode. Some savants postulate that there is a Nexial pocket universe in which only she and her webs of fate can enter or exit. Istis does certainly make appearances on other planes, including the prime material. Sometimes she is an old crone, other times she appears as a noble dame, then again as a lovely lady, or even as a shepherd girl. In whatever form, Istis never bears an obvious weapon, for she is able to employ any object offensively. Istis can also create and cast strands and webs of many different kinds. Each strand or web has its own powers and effects. These strands and webs are strand of binding, which confines a creature as if wrapped in iron chains. Strand of cancellation, which causes the object struck to cease existing and become as if it had never existed. Only non-living things can be affected. Strand of death, which reduces whatever it strikes to dust forever. Strand of hostility, which causes any affected creature to become hostile to anyone and anything which opposes Istis, because destiny would have it so. Any and all possible actions in defense of Istis will be used by the creature affected, even against former friends or associates, without direction from Istis. Strand of passage, which instantly connects the plane it is on to any other Istis desires. Any creature touching it are transported instantly to the connecting plane. Talk about using the web. I'm sorry, that was horrible. This joke was horrible. Let's see. Strand of sending, which sends the affected creature to whatever time and place in the near future which poses the greatest threat to its freedom or existence. Willing creatures can be sent to a place of future opportunity. Web of enmeshment, which causes all creatures caught in it to become lost in a maze-like space, vision clouded by mist, filled by apprehension, and likely to attack on sight any other creature encountered. The web seems to have no internal boundaries, although those inside it can see no more than 10 feet in any direction. A little bit more dangerous than the demon web in Q1, yeah? Web of entropy, which drains magical powers from enchanted items and cancels the effects of spells cast from within or into the web. The web of stars, which transports Istis and all that is near her to an unbounded time space of unknown type. All see an infinity of starry space draped with endless nets of silken strands. Distances are distorted, and each step taken moves the individual vast distances, or so it seems. Any creature more than 2 steps away appears as a glowing star of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, or white. See, green stars. Don't come at me with your astrophysics and say there's no green stars. There are in Greyhawk anyway. This web is an ultra-dimensional pathway to virtually anywhere or any when, provided the way is known. Istis naturally knows the way. Istis is starting to seem more and more like Yog-Sothoth, which is scary, because Because Yog-Sothoth knows the key. Yog-Sothoth is the key. Yog-Sothoth is the key and the gate. Extremely intelligent creatures have been known to return to their point of origin. A few intellects, whose genius is surely beyond measuring, are reputed to have actually determined the location of other points along the web and traveled to other times and planes. The web lasts for 1 hour of real time. When it fades, all creatures return instantly to an apparently random location on their respective home planes unless they have found and entered some other plane. The stars are entryways into times and planes, but unless the nature of the time or plane is known, those portals are impassable. Istis employs a spindle-like instrument to cast these strands and webs. This device responds to Istis and Istis alone. All times and places and planes are known to Istis, and she may move freely from one to another as long as she has her spindle. If it is lost, she returns immediately to her own plane. The lost spindle will then crumble into powder instantly, and Istis will be compelled to remake her magical spindle, which may require up to a year, during which time she cannot control fate. Istis can never be surprised. Yeah, one thing you're never going to hear Istis say, I didn't see that coming. She can move into the future and back instantly once per day. Such movement is known to have a curative effect on her. All time-related spells are totally useless when applied to Istis in any manner. Istis is said to be served by a strange companion, a creature of time similar to an elemental prince. Time elemental in Monster Manual 2. Clerics of Istis wear gray robes or black on occasion. Leading clerics have web-patterned formal vestments. Most are female. In addition to the holy symbol of Istis, the cleric must allow his or her hair to grow at least 6 inches long. Centers of worship of Istis are Divers, Greyhawk, Roxas, Relmord, and Stoink. Services include gauze hangings, clouds of incense, woodwind music, chanting, and meditation. The idiot piping of a flute, perhaps? So let's see if we've got a little Istis hard data we can look at here, guys. Scroll on down. Armor class -8, move 12 inches, hit points 377, number of attacks 1, damage per attack 3 to 12. Well, gosh, you could take her in a fist fight with a 6th level character. Special attacks and defenses, of course, are down below. 100% magic resistance. Istis can literally not be magicked. Alignment neutral, medium size. Worshipper's alignment, any, neutral preferred. Golden spindle with 3 strands is their symbol. Plain, uncertain. I think plain should just be yes. Cleric or Druid, 14th level in each. She's not a fighter. 24th level magic user, 14th level illusionist. No thief or assassin. No monk or bard. All attack defense modes. Strength 15, intelligence 23, wisdom 25, dexterity 21, constitution 17, charisma 19. When Istis attacks with any item, she always hits her target as she controls fate. The damage inflicted, however, is variable due to the immediacy of such an encounter. Istis can create and cast her webs at will once per melee round. The exact effects and limitations of these strands of webs are, and then we went over those, but here's the mechanics. Any creature failing to save versus spell for the strand of binding will be confined as enwrapped in chains. It affects 100, or it lasts for 100 rounds, minus the level or hit dice of the creature. Strength notwithstanding. This power is usable 3 times a day. Note: strength notwithstanding. Titan, Storm Giant, other deity. You sit over there and think about what you've done. Strand of cancellation. It causes the object struck to become as if it never existed. Only non-living things are affected. Magical items are entitled to a save at 5% per magical plus or equivalent. Artifacts and relics saved at 50% and 75% respectively, exclusive of the percentage chance indicated above. An artifact sword +4 would have at least a 70% chance to save. This web is usable twice per day. Strand of Death. The creature or even deity struck by this strand is dust and forever gone unless a successful saving throw versus spell is made. Magic resistance is also applicable. So she couldn't roll up on Encabulus and say, "You bore me," because he's 95% resistant, and then he saves at 2 or better. So he'd have to roll a 96 through double nuts and then a 1 on a d20. It's only usable once per day, that power, by the way. Strand of Hostility. This strand affects any creature failing its saving throw versus spell. And we talked about what the Strand of Hostility did. Strand of Passage lasts for 3 rounds time and is usable twice per day. The Sending is usable 3 times per day. Willing creatures don't have to make a save, but if you don't want to get sent into the distant past or far future by Istis, you got to make a save versus spell. Web of Enmeshment. Besides confining all creatures caught inside its 30-foot square net to a maze, this 30-foot square net fills victims with apprehension, making them 50% likely to attack another creature, friend or foe upon sight. Victims must make a saving throw versus spell to be free of the web on the following round. It's very hard to read the text on this PDF, guys, and I apologize. Also, I feel a sneeze coming on. Just fairly warned, BE says I, headphones users. They have to make a saving throw versus spells to be free of the web on the following round. It applies to magic resistance as well, but the latter is only checked initially. Thus, all creatures will be affected from 1 full round at least, and that power works once per day. And then there's the Web of Stars. We talked about this colossal space-time ramification of the Web of Stars. It lasts 1 hour of actual time, or 600 paces of traveling time. There's a 1% chance per point of intelligence that any creature with genius intelligence will be able to discover the nature of the time or plane, but it will require 1 turn, 100 steps of movement time to study the portal. Only 1 attempt per individual is possible for any portable. Istis is able to cast this web once per day. She can send out her strands up to 60 feet and webs up to 30 feet. The Web of Stars, however, is limited to a 15-foot radius. These strands and webs, as well as all spell-like powers of Istis, are cast at 24th level. We talked about what happens to her spindle. It crumbles into powder, and she can't control fate for 30 to 300 days while she remakes her magical spindle. So that's... That's 3d 10 times 10, I think. Istis can be hit only by weapons of +4 or better. Never surprised. She can move into the future and back instantly once per day. Such movement will restore 30 to 300 hit points. All time-related spells, augury, divination, and time spot are useless when used against Istis in any manner. She has all the attributes and typical powers of a deity of great stature. Istis' strange servitor is, in fact, time elemental. Boom. Time elemental. Called it. Now let's talk about the clerics. And where would you put these clerics in your world of Greyhawk? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they just? Are they unjust? What are they? 80% of the clerics of Istis are female. Those of 3rd level or higher have the ability to cast one augury spell per day. This spell is known in addition to all other spells and does not count against the cleric's normal spells. 7th level or higher, a strand of binding once per day in a 10-foot range with a binding duration of 1 round per level of the cleric. The binding can be broken only as a function of strength, with a chance equal to the character's Ben Bars percentage. So you'd have to look at the creature, ogre, giant by type, titan, and so on, and decide whether or not they had one. What would you assign to, say, an earth elemental, so bound? Or a clay golem? Or a troll? Or what have you? I would put it at very low. Istis is a plot monster. Istis is not a god you get on your knees and pray to come and save you. She might just say, if she deigned to listen to your request, she literally might just say, you bit off more than you can chew. You want to get away from the monster? I'll just move you 100 years in the future when the monster's not there. There you go. And then she disappears. And what do? It's not cruel. You can make your own way still. But you're gone as far as anyone else is concerned. So that's Encabulus, and that is Istis. We'll get to something we can really get our knives and forks in on Thursday when we talk about Ayuz. Because yes, he is a god. Are you a god? Yes, Ayuz is a god, but you might be able to deal with Ayuz. And by deal with Ayuz, I mean try and bring something to stop him. But I don't want to get too deep into Ayuz's stats. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So, I think of the two, Istis is a lot more interesting. And how do you how do you pray for succor from a being like Istis? How would you as a DM react to someone who said, okay, my character worships Istis, or my character's a cleric of Istis, we need help? Would it be just something just kind of cold and indifferent, like, well, I'm just going to move you 100 years in the future, not worry about the threads that were broken in your life by suddenly just everything's gone? Just how would you do it? Think about that before we come back tomorrow. And tomorrow, again, we're going to be up at 7 o'clock, not at 12:30. And co-host Kyle Schuant will be with us. And we'll see what Kyle's got going on. And passerby, I'm sure Kyle will have something to say about the bronze down there in Australia. But as for whether or not he takes you to task for 5e, that's between you and Kyle. All right. So I'll leave you guys with that. But thanks for stopping by today, everyone. I love it. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. It's always good to see you. Thanks to folks who've come on board and joined for the fun. It's always nice to see people subscribed to the channel because, as you know, we get 1,000 subs on the YouTube channel. There's going to be a party, an adventuring party, because I'm going to run a mini convention. Multiple dungeon masters can sign up if you want to. It's just going to be a thing we're going to do to celebrate breaking 1,000 subs on the channel, and we're ever so close. Somebody decided it wasn't for them. I get it. We miss you. You can come back. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff. So we're sitting at 801 subs right now. But tell your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your fellow gamers. Corner the guy down at the local comic shop who even glanced somewhat in the direction of the D&D items rack. Don't do that. Don't be the creepy gamer guy. But tell people about it. Because we have a lot of fun here. Don't we have a lot of fun here? I think we have a lot of fun here. click that like button, click that subscribe button, click the bell icon to get notifications, and stick around. Because when you do, and when we have that con, that's going to be something you guys can talk about for a long time. Yeah, I normally don't do virtual cons, but oh my God, Bill Sylvie at the Great Underground Game Con. What a time I had. You'll be able to say it. So with that, we're going to call it a day. Thank you as always, guys. Thanks as always to our musical providers, Bards of Greyhawk. Mwah. Chef's kiss, guys. Fantastic stuff always. Shout out to Todd and Anna over at Gods and Monsters. I love you guys. I haven't seen you in so long, but a pumpkin cheesecake is coming your way soon. That's right. So y'all have an absolutely stellar afternoon. We will see you tomorrow night. And until then, be good to each other. Game on. Have fun. And be safe. Peace, everybody.